Hey y'all, so in the absolute blistering speed of maybe 2 videos a year, y'all might have noticed I have a slight penchant towards redesigns, but I also just like doing character designs for myself. And I feel like I haven't gotten to do that in a while, so that's this video. But just so I don't get lost doing whatever in this video, I've set up some guides for myself. First, I'm using a website called colorpalettes.net. It's a cool website with lots of cool palettes. Honestly, I just love meandering through the photos. They're all just so lovely. Check it out for yourself sometime. Second, I should try and use all the color in the palette. If there's small deviations in saturation or hue, I'm not gonna stress it because it's more important that I take inspiration from the photos for my character design than being one-to-one with the color. Lastly, they're all designed with a vague magical girl VTuber aesthetic, but that's just for me and it sort of became the vague outline of a plot, but we'll get there when we get there. So yeah, took to a number generator and spat out some numbers and off I went. I ended up with 7, well, maybe 8 if you count the thumbnail, but she's not appearing here. Because I just can't help myself or do smaller videos apparently. But let's get on with the show. Palette number 1, or technically 1277, but it's the first one up. Looking at the photos, we got lots of foods, some macaron, mint, and blueberry, and in my first sketches, I had a maid or bakery theme to them, but I quickly pivoted to something I found a lot more interesting, which was just a cool hat. I said I wanted to reference the photos as inspiration, but I don't want to be so direct that I can't play with ideas and shapes given to me if I find them more interesting. Like, a baker was the easiest choice, but I also thought that the macaron split in half would make for a cool hat, especially with some green feathers standing in for the mint. From there, the most interesting idea from the hat was like a burlesque inspired outfit. Like a burlesque magical girl that sounds so fun and interesting. But oh boy, I don't know how to design that. Like, my initial designs might have overcomplicated it. I tried this sort of split vest, like 2 halves of a macaron shell, this massive weird curved coattails, different hat styles. Everything felt pretty aimless in an attempt to make the design more interesting. Like, it got bad. I started this project back in September, coughed up this completed artwork and these failed ones, and then fell into the deepest, darkest pits of art block. But after a short 9-month break, we're so fucking back. Oh, the highs and lows of art. I had to reassess my concept and simplify it. What did I want to keep and what was just too hard for me to draw? I simplified the hat, and rather than a split vest, I decided a corset would just be easier to draw. Rather than a tailcoat, I just made it an absolute explosion of like feathers from her corset and on the back. Added some shiny floating gems for some magical energy, and called it good. We sort of lose the blueberries in the design. They were initially inspired her hair to be in these big, fancy rolls, but since I simplified everything, they became sharper and not blueberry shaped. I mean, there's the necklace, but that's essentially a footnote compared to everything else. But it's fine, I think her design still fits the vibe of the photo. I also designed a magical companion for them, and they're called eyes, spelled like this. They're the ones that form contracts with their wielder for reasons, but we'll get back to that later. So here's our final look. I named her Tart, since I wanted all of them to have simple names that isn't just their color palette number. Pretty simple in terms of design and power. Kind of jotted down the first idea that came to mind. Her design is so much more simple than where it started, but I'm so much happier with the final results compared to my first attempts. Up next we have number 4044, and it looks to be some type of flower. I'm guessing a peony, but I'm not a botanist. But alright, a flower-based magical warrior, pretty easy I think. Quick thing, all of these videos will start with some sort of pretty crunchy sketches that I blew up to fit the size. I just had lost Tart's concept sketch video, but I wanted to include some ideation footage to show how different initial ideas could be. I initially linked the flower motif with inspiration from fairies, but I don't think there's actually a lot of fairy imagery in the final look. I think it's just the vibe and energy, you know? I had designed the bow to look like wings on her back, but then I moved it to the front and now wraps her entire top, because her inspiration shifted from a flower fairy to an upside down bouquet. Like, the head of the bouquet is her skirt, whereas the top is wrapped off with a bow. About the character's actual eyes, I decided to go with this really bright pop of gold since I found specks of it in the photo. The hair is also something that changed from my initial sketch, because I designed them with some bantu knots to look like flower buds, but after taking another look at the photo, I decided that wasn't it. Like, it's a picture of a flower in bloom, not about to bloom, so I switched it out for these stylized afro puffs. I still think her civilian form might have some like bantu knots, and the magical girl transformation would have them coming into bloom, so to speak, but I don't know how to animate shit, so I guess I'm just gonna have to imagine it like any self-respecting adult with unfulfilled dreams. It wasn't intentional, but her eye is giving me bunny vibes, but I think it's because of the round tail and having both standing and lopped ears. But to drip feed you some lore, the magical companions are called eyes is because functionally it's the only sense they have access to. Like, they can't touch, smell, hear, or taste anything in the physical world. They're extra-dimensional creatures with great powers, and they form contracts with humans to grant them these powers because the transformation sort of binds them and allows them to experience all 5 senses. How much each eye wants to experience it kind of depends on the individual, but that's what I'm working with for now. And here's Corsage's final look. She was originally named Bouquet, but I combined that with Croquette to make the team name, so in theory all her teammates are flower-based magical girls with a vague croquette theme. I gave her a simple wand, and it just goes to show that sometimes the power of a magical girl is just more impressive than the actual weapon. The weapon is just a way to channel that power. Round 3. Honestly, I don't know what to make of the photo or the palette. Like, my first thought was like a baby mobile for some reason, but I landed on a Cupid theme with the heart, ribbon, and pastels, and aha, I tricked ya! Did you think it was all gonna be magical girls? We got magical boys here too, except I'm bad at designing them. There's a pretty big discrepancy between my initial sketches and what I'm actually drawing because I had a more classical idea of a Cupid-based design, but I didn't hate it. It was just more about the whole thing. There were things I did like about the initial look, that mostly being the ribbon wings, but after concepting more palette designs, I finally decided to go back and I had to redo this one and give them something new. I settled on something akin to a suit with a waist belt corset. I've said the thing I missed the most from the old look was the wing ribbons, so to get some of that look back, I gave him this cape thing. It's meant to be like another coat he draped over himself, where the top part are the sleeves and the bottom are the coattails, because I love a good dramatic swooshy thing. I'm pretty unsubtle with my designs, like I literally stapled hearts everywhere, but I think he's lacking some ribbon action. There's a simple one for his necktie, but I also tried my best to fashion his tied locks into a heart and ribbon. Like, the top loops make a heart, but plus the tail, it turns the whole thing to a ribbon. I'm running out of things to say about the design, so it's lore time. So in this universe, magical warriors are kind of like a profession in the same way that, like, I don't know, theatrical wrestling. There are actual threats in this world which the magical warriors do fight, but it's presented very theatrically, and this is where like the VTuber inspiration comes from. All fighters are sponsored by a company. They don't have to be assigned to teams or like with gem mates or something, but they all are part of companies. There's not such a thing as like indies, mostly because the process of coming across or contracting eyes are hard and sort of regulated, so any would-be indies are pretty underground. And like VTubers and WWE wrestling, I guess, there's ongoing lore and stories for each like persona, but that's it for now. Here's Aeneas. I was trying to find another name for Cupid, but I couldn't. I'm much happier with his new look. He's kind of just some random Cupid in his old design, but now he's more like dapper, handsome, demure prince. But lore-wise, let's say that the initial pitch was by management before Aeneas gave it his own spin for the final look, like pre-debut, I suppose. This is another one where the weapon is more of a conduit for his powers, but I guess he can also give someone a mean backhand. I think his team is mostly comprised of like different kinds of loves, like maybe Thumbnail Girl is like heartbreak and Aeneas is a crush or young love. Next. It's another food-related one, but this time it's a drink. Not sure what drink it is, but I saw the line and immediately thought of a 1950s roller skate waitress, where the skirt and wheels were essentially giant lemon slices. I didn't go down that path because the top half felt pretty aimless, and 75% because I didn't want to draw another pair of roller skates again for a while. So I decided on a like sexy bartender, except I don't think there's such a thing as a bartender uniform. Like, I looked it up and it's kind of just people in a semi-formal vest or a bar worker. I think the final result is more akin to a vague bunny girl bartender with a lime aesthetic. Still, I try my best to repeat a bunch of wedge shapes because I'm a hack like that. I give her these wrist cuffs, and I think I meant to give her actual gloves for the cuffs to attach to, but the thought of having useless cuffs attached to nothing just for the aesthetic was so funny, I just left them as useless cuffs. Now, initially she was meant to be on her own team, but as I was finishing it, I thought she had a lot of similarities with Tart, both being food-based magical gore warriors with more, let's say, playful outfits. I decided to just throw her into the same team as Tart. Teams are assigned by the company and management, and how strict or cohesive each theme is kind of depends on what is wanted by the company or team members. Like with Aeneas, there's some variability with how magical girl outfits or magical warrior outfits can look, but I'm not sure what those exact limitations are yet. Like, I think outfits would repeat motifs and colors found on the eyes, but that still leaves a lot of wiggle room for how varied the outfits can be. I don't think Sours, that's her name, Sours' original outfit looked too different from what it is now, but the team definitely talked to bring their costumes more in line with each other. On my end, I added in the floating gems and random forearm band, like with Tart. I also gave Sours her little trifold hat from when she had more of a 1950s diner look, because it's a cool little hat and a really cheap way of adding a line to her design since the shape lines up really well. Last little fun tidbit, the two extra colors I added, the yellow hair and orange eyes, were just so I could have the three big citrus colors, lemon, lime, and oranges. Here's Sours' final look. I'm so in love with her weapon being this giant cocktail shaker. It has the ability to absorb and hold attacks, and with a good shake, she's able to send out her own remixed attacks, but she has no idea what she's sending out if she's like never done this before. The photo reference we got here is pretty simple, but the challenge was mostly with the colors. I had just gotten done with the previous green design, and I'm not lying when I say that green is like my least favorite color to work with, but alright. So I knew pretty immediately that I didn't really want to focus on the ladybug. Like, love ladybird beetles, but I just wasn't really interested in designing a ladybug themed magical character. Which meant the blades of grass had to be where I pulled the main inspiration from. And my first thought was to give him a cool hat. Because I like hats, I guess. Specifically, the inspiration was the sangmo hat. It's a type of traditional Korean hat typically used for folk dances like the pommol, and they're cool as fuck. Please just Google and watch some pommol dances because the movement is just amazing and beautiful. I thought the long, thin, like paper slip at the end of a sangmo hat could be swapped out for just like a long, thin blade of grass with a ladybug at the end. Pretty on the nose interpretation here, but it's not like I was ever trying to be subtle. Then comes the hard part of designing an outfit for a dude. An outfit for dudes is so hard. Like, it's partially because it's just not something I do, but I'm also gonna shift the blame and say that men's fashion is so fucking boring. Thankfully, traditional clothing helps break up the monotony of suits and buttons, but then I swung too far to the other side. This is the concept I had for his outfit, but taking another look at it, this is just a Pungmo outfit that I dip-dyed green. My point is, I want to make these designs to be magical characters that takes inspiration from photos or themes. Like, I'm not trying to make a Pungmo magical boy. I'm trying to design a magical boy that takes inspiration from Pungmo Sangmo hats, ladybugs, and grass. So back to the drawing board, I reshaped the outfit to be a bit more fun with the cut. This was so fun because despite designing the outfit, I have no clue how this upper collar was meant to interact with the arms. Also, don't question me about how the cut works. Let's just say that the wrap stops under the armpit or something. I tried for a more vertical color split and added these wrappings on the arms that flowed into some ribbons. I let his hair out to play. That's something I debated for a while. His fit is mostly good, but then came the trouble with the colors. I had introduced this darker green to contrast with this bright orange, but after nearing completion, I took another hard look. Fuck, I injected too much of the dark green. Shit. It was an easy fix though. I just swapped the placement of the light and dark greens. It's just funny how many potholes I hit while trying to complete this design. The eye has a pretty different body plan with its long, exaggerated torso. Eyes are able to look pretty different as long as the head and arms are roughly the same. So here's ribbons, except I lied again. Yeah, I went and redid stuff again. Reworked the look of the eye since I wasn't a fan of how it was shaped before. Redid the layout since the previous one felt so crowded. And his new name is Glade. Wasn't satisfied with ribbon, and I'm still not with Glade. So if y'all have some suggestions, hey, I'm listening. But anyway, Glade's power allows him to boost the power and endurance of whoever he attaches his ladybug to. So like, he's a bard character, you know? Oh, palette 1828, how you torture me so. Well, actually, it's more of a posing that made this one hard. Like, I started on this and then had to take a 2-week break from it because the posing was frustrating me so much. But to the design, it's pretty obvious that the balls of yarn were a big focal point and up that subtlety leaving the stratosphere. I essentially hot glued balls of yarn to her head and hip because the silhouette of it was just so fun. I didn't have much else going for the outfit. I think I might have wanted to incorporate more knit work because I think it's a knitted sweater in the photo, but yeah, no, I didn't do that. The only other thing I think I knew I wanted was asymmetry in her design. Up till now, all the designs have been pretty symmetrical aside from, you know, little things. Tart and Sour's hat, Corsage's eye patch, Anis's sleeves. Glade's color placement gave him some more asymmetry, but also the cut of his wrap. That's generally how I like to design characters, mostly symmetrical with some asymmetrical elements, so this design was a bit out of my usual wheelhouse. But I wanted her to look cool, and apparently the only reference in my memory bank were Genshin Impact and its adjacent character designs. I think this was through a series of weird mental connections because I went from yarn to knit to clothes to cosplay and then ended up at Genshin cosplay. She has a much more modern and semi-grounded look compared to the others, which I really like. She's kind of also why I added the VTuber-esque like notice on the design guidelines, because she does have a very VTuber feel to me. Honestly, her biggest impact was the design process, was showing me that magical warriors in this universe is a very flexible look. I had just finished her little concept sketch and I absolutely loved it. But then I took a good look at the others surrounding her, mainly the two dudes. Constantly comparing the 6 drafts made me realize how much I disliked Anis's and Glade's concept designs. Anis less so, but I just didn't have the same fun impact as with the others. Like, yeah, it's a cupid, but it wasn't fun in the same way that Tart being designed after a macaron was fun, and his fashion was just not up to my personal standards. I already talked enough about how much I disliked the first concept for Glade's design, so I'm not gonna get into it. If you somehow forgot, rewind the videos or something. So I guess if you guys were fans of the original concepts, blame her, I guess. I originally planned for her to have these knitting needles as her weapon, but the more I thought about it, using a giant yarn ball mace as a flail was just so good, I just had to roll with it. Nothing really notable with the eyes design other than the fact that it looks like a mouse or an ox to me, and I don't know why. This is Stitches. Couldn't really think of a better name, so I'm open to suggestions here too. I keep thinking of that Disney gremlin, and the color here doesn't help. She doesn't have a team listed, and she will be one of those ones considered an individual talent. Like I said, all, or legally all, the fighters are sponsored under a company, even if the company doesn't assign them to teams or gem mates, I suppose. Her power is entanglement. She's basically able to trap her enemies, but as a downside, the size of the yarn ball and the reach of it decreases the more enemies she traps. She's able to disentangle them too, but that also takes time. Last, and definitely one of the easier ones, it's surprising after the challenges that was Glade and Stitches how smoothly this one came together. These colors are pretty fun, and I knew I was going to be predominantly working with a black design with bright yellow and gold accents. As for the outfit, now, I don't know what language the word in the photo is. I'm guessing German just from the sheer unit of seemingly one word, but I'm gonna take a wild guess and say that this is a mailbox or some sort of postage system. And you know what's the most obvious leap from postage system? Newsies. Yep, the Disney film / musical. Well, it's more of my internet meandering that led me to it. I was trying to reference historical mail carriers, but I was just more drawn to the outfits of like the Victorian newsboys, but I think it's mostly the hat. I don't think the final design really resembles mail carriers or newsboys, but the hat was like pretty directly taken from Newsies caps. It's funny looking back at the previous designs and seeing just how many of them have a hat. Like half of them have hats, man. Tart and Sour are part of the same team, so I guess it's like a uniform for them. If you want to extend it out to like head accessories, Corsage has her hair ribbons, but in the concept art, Aeneas and Stitches also have hair accessories too. I guess I'm just an uber fan of head accessories. But back to this design. I mostly was working on carving out spots for these secondary browns. His outfit is pretty simple, but with the standout elements of the bright yellow wings on the caps and this lightning necklace, because I thought they were cool. Since there's not much else I want to talk about, I'll just let the speed paint roll and explain more of this world. I'm coming at this universe with complete and reckless abandon. I'm trying to not take it too seriously since it's all just for fun. I'll establish rules and plot stuff, but I'm not planning on turning this into like a serialized narrative or anything serious. It's just a place for me to dump OC's designs and ideas for now. That being said, this world is Earth adjacent, but like semi-futuristic. It's like 20 minutes in the future, let's say. Something happens, an event, that causes extra dimensional creatures that I'm gonna call stimuli for now to appear. They wreak havoc and can possess people, but human weapons are seemingly unable to harm the stimuli despite the stimuli's ability to affect the physical world. At the same time, creatures called eyes start appearing and through happenstance manage to come in contact with humans and form a contract to become magical fighters. These magical fighters are granted powers and are able to make quick work of the stimuli, but they keep on coming. As the warrior is both human and extra-dimensional creature, they're able to injure the stimuli but also cause physical damage to buildings and or other people. Jumping a bit further, the role of magical fighter is essentially a job now, where it's somewhere between a protector, idol, and performer, and that's what I have for now. Things can change, but we're gonna have our fun with it. Here's Post. His weapons are these two floating metal rings, which I guess can be used to dent someone's head, but they're mostly a conduit for his powers. Basically, the two rings causes a travel stream between the two. Think those pneumatic bank tubes. I think this might allow him to like rip a circular chunk of rock if it's placed between the two rings, but I'm not sure of its limitations for now. But this does kind of give Post the power of flight if he's like between the rings, you know? And finally, we've made it to the end. 7 color palette inspirations into 7 magical warriors. After 9 torturous months of art block, I can finally put this video to bed. This was a lot of fun. I haven't been able to draw or design my own characters for a really long time. Inevitably, new OCs caused me to world build like crazy, and yeah, the gears were turning non-stop even during those 9 months of art block. But it's so fun. I hope y'all enjoyed it too. Y'all might have noticed that I didn't give any of the eyes names. I'm not sure if the code names would also be their names, or if their partner, wielder, gives them their names, or if they would have their own names. I'm open to suggestions, so if y'all want to suggest some names, or like naming theme preferences, drop a comment or something. But enough about that. I hope y'all enjoyed this video, and maybe stay tuned for more videos like this. Mayhaps? Or whatever videos I managed to cough up. Well, till next time, bye y'all.